Emma had been enjoying a quiet Saturday afternoon, the kind of calm that felt rare in her busy life, when a sudden knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. She wasn't expecting anyone, and the sound echoed through the house, making her heart flutter with curiosity. When she opened the door, she saw Mark, her husband's close friend from college, standing there with a gentle but hesitant expression she didn't recognize. He wasn't the usual confident, easygoing Mark she remembered. There was something different in his eyes, something serious, almost vulnerable. "Hi, Emma," he said softly, his voice calm but tinged with tension. "Can we talk?" Emma felt a strange mixture of surprise and unease but stepped aside, inviting him in. As he entered, carrying a small envelope that he seemed reluctant to show, the air between them shifted, charged with a quiet intensity she hadn't expected. They walked into the living room and sat on the couch, the silence stretching longer than it should, making Emma acutely aware of his presence. "I know this might sound strange," he began, his gaze flickering around the room before settling on her, "but I needed to see you." "Alone?" Emma's mind raced, trying to make sense of his words, feeling a mix of nervous anticipation and curiosity. She remembered all the times she had laughed with Mark, all the casual conversations that had gradually built a quiet bond, and she realized there was an unfamiliar tension in the air now, a weight of unspoken words. Mark's hand trembled slightly as he held the envelope, and Emma wondered what secret or confession it might contain. Her heart beat faster, a strange combination of excitement and apprehension coursing through her. She tried to speak, to ask him why he had come, but the words caught in her throat, leaving only the thrum of her own curiosity and a quiet, growing awareness that this visit might change everything. Outside, the sun was casting gentle shadows across the room, but inside, time seemed to slow, each second heavy with meaning, each glance between them charged with emotion neither of them fully understood yet. Emma realized that whatever Mark was about to say could alter her understanding of him, of her husband, and perhaps even of herself. The quiet living room, the small envelope in his hands, and the seriousness in his eyes all told her that this was not just a casual visit, and that the next words he spoke might bring unexpected revelations, stir feelings she hadn't dared to name, and open a door she hadn't realized was there. As Mark finally looked at her and spoke again, she braced herself, sensing that this moment, simple as it seemed, could mark the beginning of something profound and deeply emotional in a way she had never anticipated. After the initial shock of Mark's visit, Emma felt a strange silence settle between them, heavy yet intimate, as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. She watched him carefully, noticing the subtle changes in his expression, the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, the hesitation in his movements, the way his hands fidgeted with the small envelope he still held loosely. For months, she hadn't thought much about Mark beyond casual memories of shared laughs and friendly conversations, but now, sitting across from him in the quiet living room, she sensed an emotional depth she had never noticed before, a side of him that was patient, tender, and surprisingly raw. I've been carrying something for a long time," Mark said finally, his voice low and careful, the words deliberate as if he had rehearsed them 1,000 times in his mind. Emma felt her pulse quicken. There was a weight in his tone, a seriousness that demanded attention, that pulled her into a place she hadn't expected to go. Her chest tightened, and for a moment she wasn't sure whether to speak or to simply listen, because she felt that any interruption might shatter the delicate moment. "Something I never said, not to anyone," he continued, glancing at her with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. Emma's heart pounded, a mixture of curiosity, concern, and a faint, unfamiliar thrill stirring deep inside her. She had always admired Mark's sincerity and his quiet, steadfast nature, but hearing him speak like this, with honesty that pierced through the casual familiarity they once shared, made her realize just how much she had underestimated the connection they had. "You can tell me," she whispered almost without thinking, a sudden courage rising in her as she leaned forward slightly, drawn to the truth he was about to reveal. Mark hesitated, taking a deep breath, his eyes locking with hers, revealing a vulnerability he rarely showed to anyone. "It's about you, about us. I've always admired you, Emma. More than I should have, and I kept it to myself because of Tom." I never wanted to create trouble between friends. Emma's mind swirled with emotion, a tangle of shock, guilt, and unexpected warmth. She loved Tom, of course, with a loyalty that had never wavered, but Mark's words awakened something tender inside her, memories of late-night conversations, quiet understanding, and small gestures of kindness that had always felt intimate in a way she hadn't acknowledged. The room seemed to shrink, the sounds of the outside world fading until it was just the two of them, suspended in a fragile, intense moment where the past and present collided, and Emma realized that the person she thought she knew perfectly had a depth she had barely touched, and that depth was now being revealed in a confession that was as startling as it was heartfelt. She didn't know how to respond immediately. The right words seemed impossible to find, because what Mark had said had stirred a mix of loyalty, attraction, and unspoken longing that she wasn't prepared to navigate. I don't know what to say, she murmured finally, her voice barely above a whisper, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap, torn between the love she felt for her husband and the unexpected emotion blossoming at the edge of her heart for Mark. Mark nodded slightly, as if he had expected this hesitation, and leaned back just a little, giving her space while still holding the weight of his confession in the room. I never wanted to make things difficult for you. I had to be honest. I couldn't carry it alone any longer. The words hung between them, gentle but heavy, and Emma felt a wave of emotion she hadn't anticipated, a mixture of sadness, surprise, and a curious warmth that left her breathless. In that quiet living room, with sunlight softly falling through the windows and the distant hum of life outside, Emma understood that this moment would linger in her mind long after Mark left, shaping the way she saw friendship, loyalty, and the delicate boundaries between love and longing. Mark shifted slightly on the couch, his eyes never leaving Emma's face, and she could feel the tension in the air, a fragile bridge between honesty and restraint, as if the room itself held its breath waiting for what would happen next. She sensed the depth of his feelings now, not just words spoken lightly, but a quiet, aching truth that had been simmering for months, perhaps years, and the realization made her heart pound with conflicting emotions. Mark's voice, low and steady, carried the weight of his confession as he leaned forward just enough that she could feel the closeness, though he didn't touch her, his respect and hesitation obvious in every movement. I know I should leave, he said softly, a hint of regret lacing his words. I shouldn't have come here like this, but I couldn't keep it inside any longer. I had to tell you how I feel. Emma's chest tightened as a rush of emotions swept through her, shock, confusion, and a subtle warmth that made her heart ache in ways she hadn't anticipated. She had loved Tom faithfully, adored him for his kindness and the life they shared, but hearing Mark speak with such honesty awakened something within her, memories of shared laughter, quiet understanding, and the way he had always been there in ways that felt unexpectedly intimate. Mark. This is so complicated, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, torn between loyalty and the sudden, undeniable stir of feelings she hadn't fully recognized until now. I love Tom. I can't, but I care about you too. Her words hung in the air, fragile yet powerful, a confession of the conflicted emotions she could no longer deny, and Mark nodded slowly, a mixture of sadness and relief in his eyes, understanding the boundaries she had set while quietly appreciating her honesty. The tension in the room shifted subtly, from the intensity of confession to the weight of understanding, as both of them realized that their connection, though complicated, had been deep and meaningful, built over years of friendship, trust, and quiet support. Mark's eyes softened, his lips forming a small, bittersweet smile, as he leaned back slightly, respecting the unspoken rules of loyalty and love that Emma held for her husband, yet silently acknowledging the bond they shared, the one that had always existed beneath the surface, delicate and profound. Emma felt a rush of relief mixed with lingering longing, a strange blend of emotions that left her both comforted and unsettled, knowing that although nothing could change outwardly, the honesty they had shared would leave a lasting mark on both their hearts. The room seemed quieter now, almost reverent, filled with the echoes of words spoken and feelings revealed, and Emma understood that life had a way of presenting moments that tested loyalty, stirred the heart, and challenged the limits of emotional truth without ever breaking the bonds of love. She realized that even in the presence of deep, unspoken attraction, respect, honesty, and the strength of her marriage could coexist with newfound awareness of human connection, and that this revelation, though tender and bittersweet, was a gift of clarity and understanding. As Mark rose slowly, ready to leave, Emma felt a wave of gratitude and unspoken affection for him, a silent acknowledgement of the emotions that had been stirred, the truths that had been shared, and the quiet understanding that sometimes love and friendship were complex, layered, and profoundly human, capable of touching hearts without altering the commitments that defined life. The afternoon sunlight streamed gently through the windows, casting a warm glow on the room, reflecting the delicate balance of feelings that had unfolded, and as Mark reached the door, he paused, giving her a final, meaningful look, a mixture of hope, restraint, and quiet admiration, leaving Emma with a deep, emotional awareness that some truths, even if unacted upon, could transform the heart forever, and that human connection, in its purest form, was a treasure that could endure without crossing boundaries, making her more aware than ever of the love, loyalty, and emotional depth that defined her life. Mark stood slowly, the weight of the conversation still lingering in the air, and Emma walked with him toward the door, her heart a mixture of gratitude, longing, and quiet relief, knowing that this moment, though charged with emotion, needed to end with respect and understanding. "Thank you for being honest," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper, carrying the sincerity of her feelings and the complexity of her thoughts, for she understood that his honesty was a gift, even if it stirred emotions she hadn't fully expected. Mark's expression softened, a small, bittersweet smile appearing as he nodded. "I'll always be here, Emma. Not to interfere, but just to support you, from a distance if I must," he said, and she felt the warmth and depth of his words, the quiet reassurance that even though their connection was complicated, it was also enduring, rooted in respect and genuine care. As he left, Emma closed the door slowly and leaned against it, her mind and heart swirling with the emotions of the afternoon, the surprise, the confession, the undeniable warmth of being seen so deeply, and the delicate tension between loyalty and the tender stirrings of feelings that had been awakened. Sitting back in the living room, she reflected on the intricate web of human emotions, realizing that sometimes life presented moments that didn't need to change the world outwardly to leave a lasting impression inwardly, moments that revealed the depth of relationships, the strength of character, and the quiet, unspoken bonds that could exist alongside love and commitment. When Tom returned home later that evening, Emma hugged him a little tighter, cherishing the comfort, love, and stability of their life together while holding within her heart the awareness of a connection that had been acknowledged but not acted upon, a connection that had brought clarity, empathy, and a profound appreciation for the nuances of human emotion. She understood that life was full of unexpected encounters, conversations that could stir feelings, and confessions that could touch the heart without disrupting the life she had built, and that these experiences, though fleeting, added layers of understanding, compassion, and emotional richness to her soul. As the evening settled in, with the warm glow of lamps casting gentle shadows and the quiet hum of the house around her, Emma felt a sense of peace, knowing that honesty, respect, and emotional openness had created a moment that was both transformative and safe, leaving her more aware of the people she loved, the friends who cared, and the complexity of her own heart. In the end, the day's events were a reminder that human connections were powerful, capable of evoking deep emotions and introspection, but could coexist with the commitments, loyalties, and love that defined one's life, and that sometimes, the most meaningful moments were those that touched the heart quietly, leaving it fuller, wiser, and more attuned to the beauty of emotional honesty. Emma realized that the encounter with Mark had not threatened her life or her marriage. Instead, it had enriched her understanding of love, friendship, and human vulnerability, leaving her with a renewed sense of appreciation for the people in her life and the gentle, complicated ways in which hearts could connect. With a final sigh, she allowed herself to feel the bittersweet mixture of emotions, gratitude, affection, and quiet longing, understanding that life's unexpected moments could deepen the heart, teach lessons about honesty and restraint, and ultimately strengthen the bonds that mattered most, leaving her emotionally awakened and ready to embrace both the love she had and the understanding of the connections that shaped her soul in ways she would carry forever.